Elon Musk walked out of his office without a word to anyone. No explanation. No notice his security team scrambled, trying to track him down, but he didn't care tonight. He needed space, he needed to clear his mind without informing anyone. He left the building and stepped into the cool evening air, no destination. In mind, just a quiet break from the chaos of his life, wearing a simple hoodie and jeans. Elon blended into the crowd, no flashy accessories. No one would recognize him. He walked aimlessly down the busy city streets, away from the noise and constant pressure. After a few blocks, he spotted a luxury restaurant, the kind of place where people with money and status dined. But tonight, Elon just wanted a meal in peace without thinking. Twice he pushed open the door and entered unnoticed, just another man in the crowd as Elon walked deeper into the luxury restaurant. He felt the weight of his name slip away. The bustling atmosphere of the high-end Erie seemed to hum with quiet conversations, clinking glasses, and the subtle scent of expensive dishes being served. No one paid him any attention to them. He was just another man walking in for dinner. He stood at the entrance, scanning the room. Wealthy patrons filled the tables, their laughter echoing softly around the room. There were no open seats in sight. A young waiter, seeing him, came up quickly with an air of arrogance. The waiter asked, "Table for one." Elon nodded silently, his eyes scanning the menu hanging on the wall behind the waiter. He didn't want any special treatment, just a simple meal to escape the chaos for a while. But the waiter wasn't interested in making it easy. Without even looking at Elon properly, the waiter began leading him to the back of their restaurant, away from the windows and the bustling center. He didn't bother asking if Elon had any preferences or whether he was comfortable with the table. The waiter's tone was dismissive, and his actions were just as cold. Elon sat down without protest. The waiter didn't even offer a polite greeting, just a quick nod. Before walking away, as Elon settled into his seat, he overheard the waiter speaking to a colleague across the room. Another guy trying to look rich, probably can't even afford the meal. He's about to order. Elon's eyes narrowed, but he stayed quiet. His mind was working, and the insult stung more than he wanted to admit. He'd been judged without a second thought. It wasn't the first time, but tonight it felt different. The waiter continued to go about his duties, offering smiles, compliments, and attentive service to the wealthy patrons around the restaurant. Elon sat quietly, trying to ignore the murmur of the staff. But it was hard. The waiter's disrespect kept echoing in his mind as the waiter passed by Elon's table again. He leaned in, slightly speaking, just loudly enough for Elon to hear. Some people think they can just walk in here and blend in, wearing a cheap suit, acting like they belong. Pathetic. Elon's hand CL ed around his glass. He could feel the blood rising in his chest, but he stayed silent. The waiter didn't stop. "There can't even offered a decent meal here, probably just came in to show off," the waiter muttered under his breath, walking away without looking back. Elon stared at his plate, his jaw tight, but he refused to react. He'd been in enough situations like this to know that sometimes silence was the best response. But then the waiter passed by again, making the same judgmental looks, his eyes flicking over Elon with a mix of condescension and disdain. Elon could feel it, and this time he couldn't let it slide. The waiter's actions were loud enough to make the people at nearby tables look over, but the waiter didn't care. He was so confident in his superiority, assuming Elon was just another nobody pretending to be someone important. Elon had had enough. The insults, the dismissive attitude, the assumption that he was just another wabe. It all weighed on him now. He wasn't just a passive observer of the situation anymore. The waiter came back to Elon's table, this time to take his order. His smile pasted on as if everything was normal, but Elon wasn't having it. As the waiter set the menu down, Elon's voice cut through the air, calm but unwavering. "You've been speaking about me, haven't you?" Elon asked, his eyes locking. With the waiter's, there was no hesitation. In his voice, just a quiet authority. The waiter froze his smile, faltering. Sir, I'm not sure what you mean," he stammered, trying to look anywhere but at Elon. Elon leaned in slightly, his eyes cold, his voice even colder. I heard what you said earlier, about me, about the cheap suit and how I don't belong here. The waiter's face paled as realization hit. I didn't mean. I wasn't talking about you. Elon cut him off, his voice steady with just a touch of bite. Don't lie, you assumed I was some guy who didn't belong, that I wasn't worth your time. Well, let me set their cord straight. The waiter fumbled with his words, looking for an escape. But there was no way out. He had crossed a line, and now Elon wasn't going to let him go so easily. You see, that's the problem. Elon continued, his gaze never leaving the waiter. People like you judge others based on appearance. You think wealth is about what someone wears or how they look, but you have no idea who you're talking to. The waiter's eyes widened, his voice shaky. Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Elon sat back, his tone softening just a little but still sharp. That's the issue. You didn't realize you looked at me and assumed, but it's not about the suit or the car or the watch. It's about how you treat people, and you didn't treat me with respect. You treated me like I was invisible. The waiter swallowed hard, the weight of his words hanging in the air. He tried to apologize, but Elon raised a hand to stop him. Apologies don't fix anything, Elon said, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of his lesson. The only thing that matters now is that you remember, this people deserve respect, no matter who they are or what they look like, and that's a lesson you're going to have to learn. The waiter stood there humiliated as Elon's words sank in. Elon wasn't angry. He was just telling the truth, and that was the hardest pill for the waiter to swallow. The tension in the air was thick, and the restaurant had gone silent. The waiter stood there, his face flushed with embarrassment, unable to look Elon in the eye. Elon remained calm, his posture relaxed, but his words hit hard. I'm not angry with you, Elon said, his voice now softer, but carrying weight. I just want you to understand something. People don't judge you by how you look or what you wear. If you want to succeed in life, you have to stop judging people like that. You'll never know who someone really is until you stop making assumptions based on appearances. The waiter swallowed. Nervously, his mouth dry, he opened his mouth to apologize again, but Elon shook his head, stopping him before he could speak. Don't apologize, Elon said firmly. What you did was wrong. But I want you to learn from this. Don't treat people differently because of their clothes or their status. Everyone deserves the same level of respect, no matter who they are. For a long moment there was silence. Between them, the waiter looked at Elon, his guilt overwhelming him. He had never imagined that the person he had insulted was someone so important, but beyond that, he had never thought about how his actions reflected his own character. Elon took a deep breath and stood up. He reached for his wallet and pulled out a generous tip, placing it on the table with a small note. The waiter leaned in to see it, his heart racing. The note read, "Respect is earned through actions, not appearances." Elon smiled faintly, his gaze meeting the waiter's once more. Learn from this, he said quietly. People will remember how you make them feel, not what you think of them. Don't forget that. With that, Elon turned and walked away. The waiter watched him leave, his mind racing, the weight of Elon's words sinking in. He had been humbled in a way he would never forget. As Elon disappeared out the door, the waiter stood still. For a few moments longer, processing the encounter. He knew this moment would change him, that he would never again judge someone based on how they looked or the assumptions